Hey guys, tonight we wander through the forgotten dust, the mud brick alleys, the buzzing fields, and the drafty huts of three civilizations that textbooks make sound majestic, but that you, in reality, would not survive for even a single day. Ancient Egypt, Mesopotamia, and medieval Europe. The myths sparkle with gold, glory, and gods. The reality? It's mud, sweat, parasites, and boredom so relentless it becomes its own kind of survival strategy. So settle in, because tonight you get to live them all. You are born not in a golden palace, but in a mud brick house along the Nile. Forget Cleopatra. Forget golden masks. You are a farmer's child, which, statistically speaking, is about 95% of ancient Egypt. Your cradle is a woven basket. Your lullaby is the buzzing of flies. The air is dry. The sun is already aggressive, and your skin is baked to leather by the time you can walk. From day one, death hovers like an overeager babysitter. Infant mortality is sky high. Half your siblings don't make it past 5. You cough, you wheeze. Parasites crawl through your intestines like unwanted house guests. Congratulations, you are already running on borrowed time. Childhood in Egypt means work. No school unless you're rich. You are hauling water, grinding grain, helping in the fields. You don't own toys. Your entertainment? Throwing mud balls or chasing goats until you collapse. Oh, and don't forget crocodiles. They lurk in the Nile like nightmare logs with teeth. One slip during the water collection, and snap. No dramatic Hollywood death scene. Just crunch, silence, and your mother screaming. The Nile itself is your life support system, but it's moody. One year it floods too high and wipes out homes. Another year it's stingy, and everyone starves. You, tiny you, are already familiar with hunger. It's a steady drumbeat in your stomach. When the flood is good, there's grain, beer, and maybe even fish. When it is bad, you boil weeds and chew on desperation. Fast forward, adolescence. Your teeth are ground down from eating bread laced with sand and grit, the accidental seasoning of every meal, courtesy of primitive grinding stone. Your gums bleed, infections spread, and by 20, you look 50. Congratulations, adulthood. Time to work until your spine folds in on itself. The myth? Egypt is eternal, elegant, serene. The reality? It's blistering hot, buzzing with disease, and hierarchies so rigid they make your back ache just thinking about. If you're not noble, you're invisible, a tool. Your dreams are as fragile as your brittle bones. Imagine this. You're trudging through the fields, bending over to plant barley, sweat blinding your eyes. A scribe, some smug guy with ink-stained fingers, strolls by and writes about the glory of the harvest. He doesn't touch a plow. He never will. But history will remember him. You vanish into dust, nameless, and yet you keep going, because survival is the only option, because the Nile gives, even as it takes, because boredom is your shield, repetitive labor, sunrise to sunset, grinding grain, hauling water, fixing mud wall. It numbs you against the chaos. The gods are watching, or so you're told. Ra sails his boat across the sky. Osiris waits for you in the afterlife. Maybe, just maybe, death will be kinder than life. At night, families sit together by flickering oil lamps. Stories are told. Myths of Isis piecing together Osiris's body, of Horus avenging his father, of the weighing of the heart in the afterlife. You listen, wide-eyed, knowing your own heart will one day be measured against the feather of truth. You wonder if yours is already too heavy with lies and hunger. Let's talk health. You are riddled with parasites. Your joints scream from arthritis. Your back is wrecked from hauling. There are no dentists, no antibiotics. If you get a bad cut, infection is a death sentence. Priests might wave incense, chant prayers, and smear honey on the wound. Sometimes it helps. Usually it doesn't. Your skin cracks under the sun. Your eyes are irritated by dust storms. Flies crawl everywhere. In your mouth, your food, your open wounds. Malaria swirls through the marshlands, and dysentery stalks every meal. If you're lucky, you live to 35. Most don't. Marriage, early and arranged. Love is optional. You're likely betrothed by your teens, expected to pop out children like pottery jars. Many will die. Some will survive to repeat the cycle. The rhythm of life is births and funerals, woven together like reeds in a basket. Women work as hard as men, grinding grain, brewing beer, hauling water, and childbirth, a gamble every single time. No anesthesia, no modern medicine, just grit, flood and the gods' mercy. And then there's work for the state. If you're unlucky, you're conscripted to haul limestone blocks for some pharaoh's ego project. Endless days, dragging stones under a merciless sun. You don't build pyramids because you believe in eternity. You build them because a whip cracks behind you if you don't. Even if you're not hauling stones, you pay taxes in grain, livestock, labor. Miss a quota, guards show up. Egypt runs not on gold, but on your back. Your sweat is the mortar of civilization. Religion is everywhere. Every cough, every harvest, every insect bite is tied to a god. You give offerings to appease them. Bread, beer, a little incense. Temples rise above your mud huts, dazzling in painted stone, while you huddle in the dust below. The priests claim to speak with gods. You wonder if they just like the sound of their own voices. Still, you believe because belief is the only thing that makes suffering tolerable. The afterlife promises fields of reeds where you'll never go hungry, where your back doesn't ache, where no crocodile lurks in the reeds. You cling to that vision as you trudge through endless day. Night falls. You lie on a reed mat, bones aching, belly half full. You dream of gods with falcon heads and jackal faces, gods who promise order in exchange for obedience. You wonder if paradise is real or just a bedtime story for the desperate. The stars glitter above, uncaring, as you drift into shallow, mosquito-buzzed sleep. And in the morning, you wake, and you do it all again. You are born in Sumer, somewhere around 2500 BCE. Forget the heroic kings carved in stone. You arrive in a mud-walled hut, your cradle no different from Egypt's. Reeds, buzzing flies, and the constant damp smell of the river. The Tigris and Euphrates, beautiful in poetry, monstrous in reality. They flood unpredictably, and when they do, they don't fertilize gently like the Nile. They destroy. One year you drown, the next you starve. And through it all, the priests say it's because the gods are moody. Great. Childhood, same deal. Work. You fetch water, patch mud walls, herd goats, stomp clay into bricks. Your toys are clay ball. Maybe a little spinning top if you're lucky. If you really want entertainment, you watch the neighbors argue over irrigation ditches, Mesopotamia's #1 sport. Food, mostly barley. Bread, porridge, beer. Repeat. Beer is everywhere. So much so that even children drink it. Not because it's fun, but because water is usually crawling with disease. You gnaw on onions, chew dates if you're lucky, and every once in a while a scrap of lamb shows up. But mostly, your diet screams carbs and parasites. By adolescence, your spine is warped from carrying water jugs and bending over in the fields. Your teeth, also wrecked, though not as sandy as in Egypt. You develop calluses, scars, and the permanent posture of someone who's seen too much barley in one lifetime. Let's talk gods. There are hundreds. Anu, Enlil, Inanna, Shammai. Every corner of life has a divine micromanager. They don't love you. They tolerate you at best. You perform rituals, sacrifice goats, pour out beer, and pray that they'll spare you. But when a flood wipes out your home or a plague rips through the village, the priests shrug and say, the gods are angry. That's it. No refunds. Religion in Mesopotamia is not comfort. It's control. Ziggurats tower over your city, staircases for gods who never seem to come down. Priests keep records in cuneiform, the world's first writing system. History loves to call it genius. You call it endless clay tablets that make sure your family's taxes are noted in excruciating detail. Literacy? Not for you. You break your back. Someone else writes about it. Law? Oh yes, Mesopotamia has laws. Hammurabi's Code, the famous eye for an eye. Sounds fair in a classroom. In real life, it's rigged. If you're rich and blind someone, you pay a fine. If you're poor and do the same, your eye is gone. Justice is just hierarchy written in clay. And speaking of hierarchy, king, they are everywhere. One dies, another pops up, waving a spear, claiming divine authority. They build walls, they fight wars, they conscript you. Your choice is simple. Fight and maybe die on the battlefield, or refuse and definitely die at home when soldiers burn your house down. Marriage comes early. Families arrange it, usually for alliances or survival. You might be 14, already bent with labor, suddenly with a spouse twice your age. Love poems exist, sure, but mostly among the wealthy. For you, marriage is an economic merger, and childbirth is still Russian roulette. Women, not powerless, but not free either. You can own property, run a tavern, maybe even become a priestess. But mostly, you are defined by womb and household. If you displease your husband, he can replace you. If you're lucky, he doesn't. The city itself is a mix of mud brick houses, narrow alleys, and smells you don't want to think too hard about. Open sewers, trash piles, animal dung. The market bustles with traders shouting about copper, wool, dates, and fish that already smells like regret. Soldiers swagger through, reminding you who's really in charge. You live under constant threat: floods, droughts, raids, disease. A fever could sweep through and erase half the neighborhood in a week. Burial pits fill, incense burns, and the priests assure you the gods are watching. Comforting, right? And yet, somehow, civilization crawls forward. You invent writing, wheels, bronze tools. You build cities, you trade, you worship, you complain. Life is short, cruel, and exhausting, but it is not meaningless. You are a brick in the wall of human history, even if no one remembers your name. At night, you lie on a woven mat, listening to the hum of insects, the distant croak of frogs in the marsh, the occasional shouting drunk outside the tavern. You think about the gods, about tomorrow's labor, about whether the river will rise and sweep it all away. You sip barley beer until sleep drags you under. The myth says Mesopotamia gave us civilization. The reality? It gave you endless work, fragile survival, and a front row seat to humanity's first bureaucratic nightmare. Progress has never been this exhausting. You are born in a hut that smells like smoke, wet straw, and goats. You share the space with your parents, siblings, chickens, maybe even a pig. The walls are wattle and daub. The roof leaks when it rains, and rats skitter freely. Your cradle is your mother's lap. Your lullaby the hacking cough of your father, already bent from years in the field. From the start, death waits at the door. Infant mortality again, sky high. A cough, a fever, the wrong draft of air, gone. Your survival depends not on medicine, but on luck and the prayers of your village priest. Spoiler: luck is in short supply. Childhood? Work. Always work. You chase geese, gather firewood, fetch water, learn how to weed fields. Play is a luxury, though you might carve a toy out of wood, or play a rough game of ball with friends. But mostly, you are an unpaid laborer by the age of 6. Food, grain, gruel, again and again. Rye bread, barley porridge, maybe a little cheese if your family has a cow. Meat is a festival food, not a daily staple. And when you do get meat, it's salted or smoked to the point of being chewy despair. For drink, ale. Weak, cloudy, but safer than water. Your teeth rot early. Your breath smells like fermentation. And by your teens, you already look decades older. The myth, knights and castle. The reality, you will never be a knight. Armor costs more than your entire village. You're a peasant, tied to the land, legally bound to work fields that aren't even yours. The Lord owns the soil, the harvest, and basically, you. You owe him labor, taxes, and loyalty. In return, protection, which usually means when raiders show up, he hides in his castle while your hut burns. Religion is everywhere. The church bells dictate your day. Dawn prayers, feast days, fast days, saints' days. You don't know how to read, but you know that sin lurks everywhere, in your thoughts, your body, your neighbor's sheep. Priests tell you that obedience equals salvation. Question too much, and you're branded a heretic. And heretics, they burn. By adolescence, you are already an adult. You marry young, often arranged, often to someone who can help keep the fields tilled. You produce children, because most won't survive. Women work endlessly, tending animals, baking bread, spinning wool, giving birth. Men labor in the fields from dawn to dusk. Your calendar is not marked by dreams, but by harvests, plowing, sowing, and fasting. Seasons are your prison guards. Health, don't even ask. Broken bones set badly. Infections kill quickly. And the word plague is whispered like a curse. And then eventually, it isn't whispered, it's shouted. When the Black Death sweeps through, whole villages vanish, buboes swell, bodies rot in the street, carts pile high with corpses. The priests say it's God's wrath. You just know that everyone you love is gone in weeks. But even without plague, survival is brutal. Winters are freezing. Your hearth smoke stings your eyes. Famine is constant. One bad harvest and you're gnawing on tree bark, praying for rain or sun, whichever you need more. Stories circulate of people eating grass, leather, even each other when times are bad enough. Civilization, huh? The city isn't much better. Streets are clogged with waste, animals, shouting merchants, guilds guard trades, markets overflow with smells of fish, onions, and human sweat. If you're lucky enough to apprentice in a trade, you might escape the fields, but only into a life of endless hours in a workshop. And always, disease lurks, fires break out, war crashes in, security is a fairy tale, and yet somehow life continues. Music drifts from taverns, children play in the dirt, lovers steal moments by candlelight. There is laughter despite everything. People dance on feast days, sing during work, tell stories by the fire. Survival is brutal, but existence is stubborn. Night falls. You crawl into a straw bed, bugs biting, smoke choking your lungs. You dream of heaven, because the church promises it will be better. Golden streets, eternal rest, the end of hunger and toil. Maybe it's real. Maybe it's just another story to keep you quiet. So let's zoom out. Egypt, Mesopotamia, medieval Europe. 3 different worlds, 3 different myths, 3 different brutal realities. History loves to dress them up as exotic, glamorous, romantic. But if you had to live them, if you really had to wake up in their mud huts, scratch at their lice, feel the hunger gnaw your stomach, you wouldn't last a day. None of us would. And yet, in those boring rhythms, planting, grinding, fetching, praying, humanity endured. That's the real miracle. Not pyramids, not ziggurats, not castles, just ordinary people surviving the boredom, brutality, and fragility of life. So if history feels boring, remember, boring kept us alive. Boring built the world. And boring is why you're here, lying in bed, listening, breathing, surviving. Sleep well, because your ancestors never could.